Hi, Tyra Butler here, early career clinician coach. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about how to better handle and cope with community mental health. So, any position that you're in, working in with the government, some nonprofit agencies, but more than likely more of the government nonprofit community mental health things that are state and county funded, those types of programs. Uh, in California, they're often the Department of Mental Health, DMH. So in every state, they have kind of different acronyms and ways that they put it, but essentially it's community mental health. So it's been brought to my attention that a lot of people, a lot of pre-licensed, provisionally licensed therapists cannot start in private practice while they're earning pre-licensure hours. So in many states it is possible, but because it's not possible in certain ones, in certain situations that some people find themselves in, I really wanted to delve into some tips and kind of create a series as well on what you can do to better navigate and cope with the situations that you have at hand. Because, in some ways you just have to slug through it and learn how to kind of, swim and not sink. They say sink or swim, and sometimes it's just a matter of continuing swimming and learning how you can continue on until you can get to a better place in your whole, licensure road to licensure. So, a mouthful there. So I made some notes. I'm going to be referring to those and kind of speaking just off the cuff with my notes as well. So the first tip that I have is find out what your supervisors and employers' priorities are. You may already know this. It may be very blatant and clear what comes across in meetings and with supervision meetings as well as staff meetings, little conversations here and there that you are a part of or you pick up on. And the reason being is this will help you figure out how you can then prioritize. Because when you know what's expected of you, it may not always be realistic, but it's helpful to know, and it's savvy on your part to know what their expectations are in terms of what's expected of them as employers and supervisors, what they're sort of facing and having to deal with. That's part of it. And then the other part of it is figuring out what their priorities are for you and what gets communicated through that. There may be 10 areas that you're responsible for or that they cover as being important, but if you hone in and use your therapeutic clinical skills, you'll start to pick up on some parts of that are more important than others. So it's not that you have to just align yourself with their priorities. I mean, to some extent you do to have to keep your job and do well. But what I'm going to tell you is you basically just want to know what their priorities and expectations are so that you can then, moving forward, know how you can navigate your way around that and through that. Okay, so just being informed, there's power in knowledge. So let's start there. Okay, then you want to find out if there's leeway with the number of clients that you see. So when you started out, there may be a quota or a particular number that they want you to see in a week's time or in each day. And you really want to know, okay, well, why is that? Where is that coming from? Is that, how many billable hours they must have overall as a department, as a company or organization? And you basically want to know if they're telling you a particular number that they want you to be able to see per day or per week. You want to know why, and you also want to know if there's leeway in that. Because usually 4 to 6 a day is the maximum any of us should feasibly be expected to handle. Reason being is we have such a limited amount of emotional and mental energy. If we're truly, doing counseling and therapy with someone and we're giving them our all, we will feel very tapped out by 4 to 6 sessions. There's just no way around that. And so because if we're going beyond that, then we're just working from a completely tapped out place. Then we're at risk for zoning out, spacing out in the session, thinking of having things run through our mind that previous clients, had just said, especially if they're back to back and there's no spacing in between. So, you want to be able to communicate this to your supervisors, that you want to be able to communicate over and over in various ways, very natural, genuine ways, that you can get this across, that any more than 4 to 6 maximum in a day, you are going to be tapped out, that you cannot feasibly see more than that. You really have to advocate for yourself, because their job, more than likely, is to try to get you to do as much as you can for the pay that they're giving you. That's typically a general employer's perspective, is the more that they can get out of you for that amount of pay, the more productivity they get, and the way it more favorably reflects on them and their departments and their organizations. And so it becomes kind of like a numbers game, almost along the lines of meeting sales quotas. Just as if you were in an organization working in a sales department and they had said, okay, you need to sell 20 products this week. Otherwise, if you do, you're meeting 100% of their quota. And if you only meet half of that, you're only 50%, which is, as we know, basically failing if we look at it in terms of grades. So that's their priority most of the time. So that's why it's important to start with number 1, understanding their priorities. And if you can pick up on that from meetings and conversations. And then once you understand what their priorities are, you have to be able to be your own advocate, because they are not going to advocate for you. They're going to, depending on their personalities, they can, put pressure on you. It can be direct or indirect. There can be this sort of air about, in the department, and just in the way that they communicate and things that get spoken about. It can come across as though that's what you're, being measured on, is how much you can produce, just as a salesperson, is measured as well. So, and just as a salesperson has to be able to determine what, how much time and effort they can feasibly put into making that quota. You have to be your own advocate, because no one else will be, unless you have, an incredibly loving, nurturing supervisor who has your back. But in a lot of cases in these organizations, that's not the case, unfortunately, because they're usually overworked. They have a lot of pressures and demands on them. And so you have to be able to be the one to advocate for yourself, and in a genuine, authentic, warm, professional manner, communicate what you're able to handle and not handle, and ask questions and let them know over and over, so that, almost like a broken record, but not in a nagging, annoying way, but in a way that that's direct and gets the message across. So number 3 is with paperwork. So if it's possible, create templates for your paperwork. That means you're not recreating the same types of forms and types of language that you use over and over again in the same paperwork. For each client, you're going to have to say such and such. You have to be able to report on interventions, treatment, symptoms, diagnoses, all of these things that incorporate the forms and the documentations that you're required to put out and keep, and they review. And so as you're in session, make notes that you can use for your paperwork notes. That way you're being a little more efficient, so you can jot things down. You don't have to write your full paragraph notations out in the session, because that would be taking away from the client time. What you can do though is, for instance, you can state increased coping skills by journaling, talking to friends, and exercising. you could have something simple like that stated, and you might create even your own shorthand to be able to do that within the session. Or something as simple as you can jot down acts out in anger less, reduced anger outburst, processing memories from trauma, utilizing EMDR, utilizing DBT, and whatever the interventions are. You can have very short, succinct notes that you take within the session that you then implement and put into those templates that you are already having formed. So those will really increase the efficiency of how you go about completing your paperwork, because another part of it is you want to know, as you're getting reviewed on your paperwork, pick up on the areas that continue to be, red marked or criticized and or corrected, and make sure that you're making those adjustments even within your templates, so that you have, if they want you to say something in a particular way, have it expressed in a way that's different than you have had it, make sure that's represented in your template. So you might have examples within the template. You might have 5 ways of saying the exact same thing, and then you're filling in or editing parts of it so that it's expressed exactly how they're saying you should have it expressed, makes it more easily billable and doesn't get rejected and all of that. So you have examples that they've already, as they're giving that to you, or as you've corrected it in there, they say, okay, yeah, that's right. Then you save that within the template areas within the template on the forms, so that you have samples to go back to. So the next time you're doing your documentation, you have examples of things that have worked and gotten approved already. So I hope that makes sense. And then number 4, so the 4th way to cope with working in community mental health, definitely this is more of the clinical side of things. So this is about how you can approach clients in a way that will help you, I think, reduce levels of burnout and feel like you're actually doing counseling, actually doing therapy, making those connections that you want to be able to make, because I think that also can contribute to you being able to continue swimming and not sinking. Because if you feel as though you're making a difference and you're truly doing therapy or counseling, then it can feel more meaningful and fulfilling to you and help you feel like you're getting something constructive out of it and not just, going through the motions. Okay, so definitely approach each session from an empathic stance. Now, an empathic stance is you're truly sitting down with the client to try to hear and understand whatever they're telling you, what life is like for them, putting yourself in their shoes. Even if you're asking questions from that empathic stance, it's to try to understand, to try to get, and not make assumptions about what they're saying, not just nod in agreement or pretend like you get it. Really hearing them, asking questions, prompting them to continue to open up and let out whatever is in them to help you understand them. Because one of the number one, needs that any client has, no matter they're seen in private practice or community mental health or elsewhere, is they want to feel respected, and the way that starts out from the beginning is feeling like you get them. And that happens through the empathic stance. And so also another way to not take the work home with you, so to say, meaning you're not as affected by what you hear, and you're not taking that home and having it sort of ruminate within your mind and affect you as much as maybe as it has been, especially if you're working with a really difficult population or, severe traumas. What you can do is also remember something as simple as the serenity prayer. Grant you the serenity to accept the things you cannot change, the things that you can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So this applies so clearly to being a therapist, because there's so much that we have influence over, that we can, so much that we can impact on, in someone, and at the same time, so much that we cannot. So I think often remembering that clients are in control of their lives, not that you don't know that already, but I think it's it's like a repetitive thing to remind ourselves, remembering that clients are in control of their life, and it's up to them to mobilize any change within themselves. That you can be, you're with them one clinical therapeutic hour a week, if that's the case, maybe less, maybe more. And so, though you have influence, you definitely have influence over them and impact, there's a lot of time that you're not with them. And so that time is all up to them. And as we know, there's so many factors that come into play during that time that they're not in session or in a program or group. And so, all of that part of the equation is on them. And so they have to want to change. And I think recognizing that you may either be planting a seed, you may serve as a buffer against some of the other aspects, harder aspects of their life. That time that they're with you, they may get that nurturance, they may get that care, that concern, that compassion. You may give them something to utilize that helps them, something beyond and above what anyone else in their life could give them. And so that can act as a buffer for them. And even just serving as a listener in their life and giving them that undivided attention. So, in any of those cases, you're making a difference. And so I think being able to, at the end of the day, know that you are making a difference, and that a lot of that is, a lot of the difference and the change that's going to happen in their lives is going to be up to them. And you do your part within that, time that you're with them, and then you can kind of let it go and leave it at that. And so it doesn't mean that it's totally normal to think about your clients now and then, to have little thoughts pop up here and there, to have feelings elicited. All of that is completely normal. I'm just giving you some things to think about that can help you not take it home and not be, as heavy burdened as maybe you are sometimes and can be, and that over time that can also contribute to being overstressed and tired and wiped out and burnt out. So, okay, number 5, recognize the impact you can make may feel minimal, and that this is about wherever you're at right now, wherever you're working, that this is about gaining experience for yourself. So yes, you're there to help them and make a difference and all of that I just talked about. And also, let's look at the bigger picture here. You're there to gain experience, to earn hours, to learn what it's like to be a counselor and therapist, to get this exposure to these client populations. And so therefore, get what you can out of it. Look out for yourself and get what you can out of it. You have to be your own best friend in these situations, because no one else is, walking through all of it with you and telling you what you need to do and all of that. So, get what you can out of it, and at the end of the day, remember that you don't have to remain there. Even if you're in a situation that you feel like, based on the circumstances, you do have to remain there based on needing to earn the hours and the supervision that you're given, you still have choices. And when you are licensed or in a position to get out of it, the other side of working in private practice or in another kind of position, in other types of settings, that they're going to be much more rewarding and less taxing on you, more fulfilling, more rewarding, more than likely. So, it's a lot of it is about keeping your eye on the prize, meaning seeing a light at the end of the tunnel of where you're at, and being able to use some strategies and coping techniques to kind of be your best advocate and figure out how you can be your own kind of manager in a way. So, some other tips. So, there's some non-clinical action items that you can take right now or very near in the future that can help set you up for success for getting into private practice when you are able to. So whether you're in a situation right now where you can't get into a private or group practice, or it's just not, you're just not quite ready for it based on whatever the circumstances may be, job-wise, personal, family-wise, whatever. There's lots of things that you can do. So you can start a website right now. There is nothing stopping you right now from getting a website going and starting a blog. Even if you're not a writer, if you can talk and you can talk to someone about a topic and you can hear what some issues are and gain an understanding of what you know about issues and your particular stance on it or experience, or your personal experiences in therapy or personal experiences being a new counselor or therapist, all of that is fodder for being able to create a blog and express yourself, write things that other people can connect with and hear and probably benefit from. And it gets the juices flowing, it gets some of the creative juices flowing. And you can even do something as easily as record yourself talking into a Google Doc. They have that now where it will transcribe it for you. And because a blog is really less formal writing, so if you can talk conversationally, then you can write conversationally. And then you can edit it and you can leave it for a week and come back to it. But anyways, just starting a website and a blog. That is something that you can do whether you have a supervisor or you're in private practice or you're not. So, because that will help get you going with search engine rankings and starting to create an online presence for yourself. And then there are also products and services that you can create that can help people. So with the education that you have, with your life history, with just who you are and your unique makeup between your education, your professional experience, and life history, and your personality, that can all contribute to helping you create and stimulate ideas to create products and services that can help people. So there's no reason why you can't start that now. So you could start brainstorming, you can start talking to people and get ideas, and there's nothing keeping you from starting that now, and you don't have to wait until you're in private practice to do that. A lot of people do things, additional services and creative type of products, workshops, things like that, once they're in a practice to help promote their practice and expand that and get more clients. But you can start that now. So, and I'd be happy to talk with you. I actually work with licensed therapists. I help them with their website content, marketing content, and part of what we do is consult and brainstorm ideas on creating additional workshop ideas, products, and services. So it's really a cool, exciting part of being a therapist because we understand human nature. So that gives us an ability to be able to create things that are going to help other people. So we can help people through our services and working one-on-one, but there's a lot of other stuff too that is out there. So that is 6 tips for you. I hope that it's helpful and that it stimulates some good thoughts for you guys. And just know that keeping your eye on the prize, doing what you can to manage things where you're at with hopefully some of these tips and some other things I will continue to share with you, and just doing what you need to do to take care of yourself that helps you feel good in the moment, in between sessions, after work. It's really based on your unique needs. It might be indulging in something good to eat. It might be eating something super healthy. It might be exercising. It might be listening to music. It could be talking to someone. It could be your own personal therapy. There's so many options available in terms of what was going to work for you. So it's also a matter of figuring that out, and it might be one thing one day and a different thing another day. And so we give so much to other people and to our employers that you have to find those moments within the day that are just yours, where you're looking out for yourself, and then that time off that you have also, figuring out what you can do to attend to yourself, your family, whatever is important to you.